Hi, I'm Paige, and welcome to All Talk and No Tech, where we're breaking down some cybersecurity jargon to make it easier to understand. I have a background in criminology, so I'm going to try and bring a different perspective into various cyber attacks and delve into the motivations behind what drives cybercriminals to engage in these types of activities. Today, we're going to talk about phishing and BEC attacks, what they are, and how we can protect ourselves from them. So, let's start off with phishing attacks and how we can define them. So phishing is a type of social engineering attack, which involves the attackers deceiving and manipulating people in order to get what they want. So this could be personal information or credit card details. The majority of phishing attacks involve some sort of malicious link or malicious attachment, which once clicked on can deploy malware such as ransomware and spyware. I think the majority of people can confirm that they've seen some type of phishing attack before, whether it be an email or a text message. Let's look at this example from Royal Mail. So as you can see from first glance, it looks like an ordinary email from Royal Mail. It's got the right logo and the correct colours. Even what they're asking you to do can be considered normal. If you have missed your parcel, there might be an opportunity for it to be rescheduled. What's particularly evil about this example is that the attackers have said that the parcel is from HM Revenue and Customs, which can bring a sense of urgency and fear to the end user. This is a clever tactic to use, as the heightened emotion might cause the user to rush into wanting to reschedule the delivery, and once they click on the link, malware could be deployed. So now we've explained phishing, let's talk about BEC attacks. So BEC stands for Business Email Compromise, and these are cleverly designed phishing schemes which target senior executives or budget holders and basically tries to deceive them into transferring funds or revealing sensitive information. So these types of attacks often involve impersonation techniques, which is where the attacker impersonates an individual or an organisation that they would usually trust. Now, what makes these attacks even more difficult to spot is the use of phishing as a service, which is a platform which makes the attacker's phishing attempts look as legitimate as possible. An example of this service being used can be found in a recent report by Cisco Talos. I'll show you. So, in a phishing email, there could be a shared document attached which can only be accessed by logging into your Microsoft account. You can see here that the attackers have created a replica Microsoft login page for the employees using their employee email address and prompting for a password. Now, once the password has been entered, if the account is protected by two-factor authentication, the phishing as a service platform will prompt the victim to provide it whilst triggering a request on the real Microsoft service. So the one-time passcode is sent to the target's device. Now from here, the stolen credentials are also used to breach corporate networks, leading to even more dangerous attacks, such as the deployment of ransomware. So there are two main types of tactics used in BEC attacks: spoofing and account compromise. So spoofing is where the attackers impersonate an individual or organisation that you'd usually trust. So let's take the example of the Royal Mail email from earlier. So if this email was legitimately from Royal Mail, the domain name, which is the little part after the @ would be @royalmail.com. Now, a tactic used often when attackers spoof emails is they would change the domain name ever so slightly. So if they're trying to spoof Royal Mail, what they could do is alter the domain name to be something like royal.mail.com. So add in a symbol or letter, so at first glance you wouldn't really notice. So account compromise is a super scary one. And this is where the attackers essentially hack into a legitimate email account. So let's say, for example, I'm in the finance department and I receive an email from my CEO asking for me to transfer funds to a particular account, something that I do every day. I don't suspect anything, so I transfer the funds without realizing that my CEO's account has actually been compromised and the email isn't actually from him, it's from the attackers impersonating, pretending to be him, using his legitimate email account. So I've basically just transferred funds to some random attacker's account and haven't suspected a thing. So spoofing and account compromise can be so difficult to spot. An example to show just how destructive these types of attacks can be shown by the infamous Lithuanian cybercriminal who stole a crazy $120 million from Facebook and Google. Now, he did this by impersonating a company called Quantum Computer, and he forged invoices, contracts, letters, and he got employees to transfer funds to his account rather than Quantum Computer themselves. And this scam went undetected for 2 years which shows just how difficult these types of attacks are to detect. So how do organisations protect themselves from these types of attacks? Well, first of all, employee training is an obvious one. The majority of breaches are still a result of human error, so by training employees on how to spot particular things in phishing and BEC attacks will reduce the likelihood of a successful attack. However, employee training alone is not enough, and we need to shift the responsibility from the employees to the organisation, and organisations need to implement multiple layers of protection so that they have things in place in case these links are clicked on by employees. So finally, why do cybercriminals use phishing and BEC attacks? Well, first of all, it's cheap, and secondly, it's easy. There's also the opportunity for high financial rewards. And now the use of phishing as a service completely lowers the barriers to entry for attackers and making things like phishing just so much easier to do. So essentially, cheap, easy, and high financial rewards. What more could they want? So thanks for listening, and I hope I've broken down some cybersecurity jargon today. See you soon.